talk about the few troops there and that they're insignificant and don't worry about it, it's not real. But that's the way we started in Vietnam. People were training soldiers, and before you know it, we lost 60,000 people. But you know, in this day and age, with the type of wars that we fight, occupation with combat troops is not exactly how we get involved. And I believe the way I read the War Powers Resolution, it does involve attacks on countries with bombs. And this is what we're doing. We're attacking this country. The people of Pakistan don't like it. The number of drone attacks in Pakistan now is double the number that it was under the Bush administration. So it is escalating. There have been 14 al-Qaeda leaders killed by these drone attacks, but there were also 687 civilians killed. So therefore, the efficiency of this isn't all that good. Now there's reports coming out that these drones don't always come back, and a lot of times they crash, and a lot of times we have to go out and find them. So there's a lot of activity going on. There's another reason we bring this up this time. It's financial. We can't afford to expand war. We can't afford the wars we have already. We can't afford to take care of our people at home. This costs money. And since we see this as an escalation and more provocation and a greater danger to us, because people are going to get upset. The people don't like this. There has actually already been a court ruling in Pakistan that says that we should, stop the bombing. The finances are certainly important. We, in the Congress, because we're slipping into this war, we have just recently granted $7.5 billion of aid to Pakistan. And what do they do with this money? Well, it's supposed to not be military. It's supposed to help rebuild their country, help their infrastructure. Well, we need a couple dollars here for our infrastructure. But they can take that money. It's fungible. It goes into their intelligence. Their intelligence observations are being used for the Taliban. And we're fighting the Taliban. So it's totally inconsistent that we're on both sides of so many wars and what's going on. The Mujahideen, they were our allies, and we were fighting, the occupation of the Soviets. It's occupation that is the issue. And we were on their side, and the Soviets were run out. But now, that same group, who are called the Taliban now, the Taliban, we have to remember, had nothing to do with 9/11. It was the al-Qaeda, not the Taliban. The Taliban are people who are unified with one issue, one concern they have: foreign occupation or foreign bombings of those countries. We need to make sure the American people know what's going on, and that there are sometimes revelations that we don't hear about. Too often our government is involved in secret wars. There was secret bombing of Cambodia back in the 1960s. And here we are slipping and sliding once more into the escalation of this war, which unfortunately is going to cost us a lot of money. It's going to cost a lot of lives, a lot of innocent lives. And unfortunately, I wished I could believe it, that we're going to be more secure for this. I think we're going to be less secure because of this activity, and we will finally someday have to meet up to the question of why do they want to come here to kill us? Do they want to do it because of their religion? Do they want to do it because we are rich and because we are free? No, they want to come here because we occupy their territory. Thank you. First off, I would like to address the subject about hostilities. It is true there are no armies facing each other, shooting and killing each other, no tanks, not those conventional type of hostilities, but we don't live in a conventional era and we don't fight conventional wars. But there's a lot of hostile action going on. In looking and checking to find out if anybody's been killed, the reports that I found, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 Pakistanis have been killed. Now that sounds like it's rather hostile. And that comes not from our invasion and troop, but we've invaded them with our predators, with our drone missiles, and we drop bombs and we aim at targets, always at the bad people. But the best of my knowledge from the information I get is that 14 al-Qaeda leaders have been killed. And the rest have been civilians, and who knows exactly what their sentiments would be. Maybe a lot of them are defending their own country. Maybe they see that they don't like foreign occupiers. But there's a lot of hostile action going on, and a lot of people are dying. And the gentleman from Ohio is quite correct. If you check with the people of Pakistan, they don't want us there. They don't want bombs dropped on them. How would we react in this country if all of a sudden there was a drone missile that landed on one of our cities, then even if 1 or 2 or 3 Americans would kill? We would be outraged, and we'd want to know about it. And here we do it constantly. Where the real secrecy is, I complain that we don't know enough about it. We give up our prerogatives. We allow the presidents to do what they want, and then we just capitulate and give them the money and do whatever. But I argue we don't know enough. We don't assume our responsibility. The American people don't know about it until we get deep into these quagmires and into these messes. But what about in Pakistan? There's a lot of conniving going on there, because I am sure their leaders are quite satisfied, with us going in there, because we bribe them. We in the Congress just passed a bill that promises them $7.5 billion. So that's how they stay in power. And it's also how they can help the Taliban who's fighting us. The whole thing is such a mess. But the people, if you ask the people of Pakistan, they're not going to support this. And the argument is that we have to support this because our generals want us to, because this is our mission. Well, what is our mission? Our mission ought to be to defend this country, preserve liberty, and show people what a free society looks like. We shouldn't be trying to tell other people how to live with bombs and threats. We give them 2 options. We tell them, do it our way. And if they do, we give them a lot of money. If they don't do it our way, we start bombing them. But we don't achieve anything. That's my contention. We just go on and on. My big beef is the overall policy. I know we're talking about the technicalities, and we're talking about Afghanistan and Pakistan. But we don't solve any of these technical problems until we deal with the subject of what kind of a foreign policy. Are we supposed to be the policemen of the world? Are we supposed to be in nation building? Are we supposed to bankrupt our people? Are we supposed to do infrastructure building all around the world and neglect all of ours? It's coming to an end because this country is bankrupt, and we're going to have to change our policy whether we like it or not. In many ways, we follow a schizophrenic type of foreign policy, because one time our best friends, they're our best friends, and then later on they become our worst enemies. This was true with Saddam Hussein. In the 80s, he was our friend, and we took care of him, and we sent him and encouraged him, supported his war. And then, of course, that changed. But even right before 9/11, the Taliban was still receiving money from us. And now they receive money from us indirectly. The Taliban gets money from the Pakistanis, or at least information, as has been reported. But they literally get some of our money in the process, because in order for us to move equipment through Afghanistan, literally they end up getting American dollars doing this. So here we are going into Pakistan, and one of the arguments that go into Pakistan is that we have to go after the Taliban, that they're over there and they're organizing and they want to kill the American soldiers in Afghanistan. So this means that now they're our arch enemies. But the Taliban, especially in the 80s and the 90s, or in the 80s, they weren't called the Taliban, but they were called the Mujahideen, and it was a precursor. But they were our best friends, along with Osama bin Laden. And we were allies with them because we supported the principle that it was wrong for the Soviets to be occupying Afghanistan. But now the tables have turned, and now we're the occupiers, and now the very people that used to help us are now shooting and killing us. And now it's been revealed just recently with this release of information that they actually have some Stinger missiles. And it has, in the last month or so, 3 of our helicopters have been shot down. What if it was always reported that freedom fighters were killed, as it was when they were our friends and our allies? The whole thing would change. But no, we call them militants and we call them insurgents, but they were formerly our allies and our so-called friends. So this is just a reflection on the ridiculousness of our endless policy of intervention, and how so often our allies and our friends turn against this, and how our money, taxpayers' money, so often is used against us. I think this is a perfect example. We'd like to stop it. That's why we brought this resolution up. We don't want to see this war spread, and we want the American people to know about it, and we want this Congress to know about it, because foreign policy isn't even written in the Constitution. The responsibility of how we run our foreign affairs is with the U.S. Congress, and when we go to the war, it should be a congressional function, not an executive function, and someday we may get there. But right now, today, we have to do our very best to let people know the shortcomings of the policy we're following in Pakistan.